All right, welcome back. Welcome back to season 1, episode 2 of the Dreaming in Color podcast. I am your host, Tahirah Banks Webster.
And I am Babes. What are we talking about today, sweetheart?
It's
Yes.
Gino. Babes, we are talking in episode 2. The topic of episode 2 is unrealistic. Partnership and the pursuit of happiness. That is a shortened version of it. But the real title is, Are My Expectations Unrealistic? Partnership and the Pursuit of Happiness. So this promises to be an exciting episode, a very personal episode. For those who are just joining us, Dreaming in Color is a community for people who are ready to trade a black and white life for one that is rich, colorful, bold, and beautiful, hence in color. As partners in life and business, Gino and I have spent the past 10 years building our business from $0 and 0 cents to millions in revenue, cash, cha-ching, and working with some of the world's most impactful brands along the way. You smiling? You blushing?
Yeah.
We are on a mission, Gino and I, to create a future where anybody, regardless of their background, through our businesses, can not only pursue their boldest dreams, but access the ideas, the resources, the technology, and the people to make those dreams a reality. And through this podcast and through our community, we are sharing the lessons we've learned to date, both business and personal, on our daily journey to transforming our communities. Our hope is that our community will empower people listening to live the best version of their lives. That is the whole long intro spiel. That's done. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, we're in it. Let's go.
All right, let's go.
I'll put a disclaimer that everything stated in this podcast are our views and our views alone.
Yes. Correct.
All right, that's it. So with that, we're off to the races. Let's talk about this, Gino. Unrealistic. Partnership and the pursuit of happiness. One of the biggest realizations that I don't think either of us figured out until adulthood, like late adulthood. Even after we were together, we didn't figure it out then when we were first dating. But it's that your success and your ability to live the most optimal version of life, your ability to live the best version of life, to be the best version of yourself, however you have defined that, in whatever way, is largely based on who you are in a relationship with.
Correct.
Is that fair to say?
Yes. Very much so.
Because this is who you spend the most time with. This is who is either building you up or tearing you down. And the challenge that we'll be discussing throughout this presentation is that the challenge a lot of us face, myself included, is that we don't figure this out until later on, when we have already made some pretty major decisions. And some of those decisions can be life-changing. So this episode is going to be, again, very personal as we explore that idea and all of the winding paths on that road.
Take note of the word ratio, guys. It's like 200 words for Tahirah and like 1. And this is what I have to deal with all the time. Just putting that out
So
there.
you just so you flex in the episode too.
Yeah,
Yes,
let's-
I'm a talker.
let's dive into it,
The
right?
children call me a chatterbox. All right, so it's on you. Last night we watched The Notebook. It was my first time, but you've seen it before. Please go straight into it. We watched The Notebook, and my question is: marriage a practical decision or is it a loving romance? Boom. Since you want to get straight into it.
Well, I'd say that earlier on, it's both. It's a romance in the beginning, and then when it gets time for that conversation, that tough conversation, you brought the conversation to me. It was, hey, what are we doing? And then you expressed what it is you wanted to do for your life. It was a tough conversation, and then no, I want you to know that you're my best friend and I love
You're
you.
my best friend too, babes.
But I didn't I didn't sign up for romance. I'm sorry. This was strictly business.
You didn't sign up for romance. You made a
Yeah.
purely business decision.
Yeah. So you know you're beautiful. You're intelligent, and you have an extremely supportive family, right? But
Mm,
what I noticed early on was that you were an extremely organized person, and someone like me, I thrive within organization. I love order. Most people do, right? Most people will thrive within that environment.
mm,
So I'd say like if and what's most important,
mhm,
I gotta say this because some young men, we kind of get caught up with the chase
mhm,
of women. And
mhm.
for me,
The
because I was
romance,
settled,
the highs and lows of romance,
yeah, yeah. And
bagging
well, no, but
chicks.
this ties into why it was practical, like why
Were
it
you
was a
chasing
business
women at a
decision.
point?
No, hello, relax. I'm saying,
I mean, we are being
I am
completely
saying that
transparent.
because I was settled and I didn't have to chase women with you,
So
I
you
was settled
settled for
down
you
with
settled
you.
with me.
Yeah, yeah, I settled down with you. Yeah. And so I was able to focus my energy on building up myself and the business. All right.
Mm.
Okay, good.
So okay. So I just want to clarify. While you have stated that there are a lot of young men that are into the chase and all of that, and maybe that may be why um they look at relationships as the romance of it because it's the highs and lows. It's very exhilarating.
It's the
I'm just
the excitement, correct? Yeah.
the excitement. I'm asking you if there was a period in your life where you enjoyed that excitement.
I can't remember, sweetheart.
You can't remember? You don't
I'm just
remember?
kidding. I'm just kidding. Yes, but it was early on in a relationship. But like
In whose
I
relationship?
valued, yeah. Like I mean, when we started out, it was like again, it was some romance, and then the
Oh, no, no,
spark.
no. I'm not asking you about with me. I'm asking you because I didn't expect that you would be chasing women
Hey,
while you were
hey, hey!
dating me.
I am only speaking or referring to my own experiences, right? In this relationship.
Okay, so you're honoring the bro code here. You are you are honoring the bro code. You don't kiss and
As it
tell.
relates to our life, our relationship,
I love this
our
for
man.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
I love this for you. I love this for you. All right, cool. So you're saying that to answer the question, is marriage a practical decision or a loving romance? You're saying for you, it was a practical decision. You made a decision to be with someone who you felt could put you in a position to live the life you wanted to live in totality, right? Who
correct.
you
Correct.
felt like I was intelligent, you felt like yeah, I look good, but I came from a very
This sounds
supportive
bad, but
family.
it right. But it was look when you're starting out, you love a boy, Gino. Like it's I was madly in love with you, sweetheart. Like I mean, but then that
I'm
died.
not
The
discounting that.
flame, right? So I would say, hey, this is my answer. Stop putting words in my mouth.
Okay.
It's it started out with romance, but it soon turned in that wore off, and it soon turned into, hey, you got to be practical about what you want for your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Because as you know, I was looking at the notebook and I was intrigued by it. There was a scene in the notebook where the mother and the father were reprimanding the daughter. She was in love with this man. He was a young man, and she was coming from a more affluent background, and
Right.
he
Trash,
they,
trash, trash. Right.
they right they said trash, 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 which was not cool. That was not a thing, right?
Yeah.
But I it was interesting because the parents wanted one thing for her and she wanted the romance, right?
Right.
And if you ask me that question today, is marriage a practical decision or a loving romance? I would say personally that it starts with romance and
Hmm.
interest. I don't think that any relationship could truly exist in an intimate way without having that spark, that interest.
Hmm.
But it does wear off after a while. You're waking, you're living with the person, you're seeing them every single day, and it's so it's not something that just sustains into infinity. It comes in waves, and it's something that you have to work on. But
And
it,
hold that thought,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Something I always tell you is that with women,
Hmm.
it's what's next. Okay, so we did this.
So we
What's
like
next?
things.
Come on. No, I'm just saying. Like you didn't have to ask me what the label was, right?
Right.
I was
You
very
did.
clear in my intentions, right?
Right.
Good. And then that hard conversation that we spoke about earlier, that I spoke about earlier,
Mhm.
was a what's next conversation, where okay, where are we going with our life?
Right.
And in every step or phase in our lives, that has been the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, babes, what's next? Right?
Yeah.
So sorry
Yeah.
about
And I think that that's how we process as women. Okay, yeah, good. We're in love. Okay, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. I got him. Now what? I want to be married. Well, I want to be
that.
engaged first. Then I want to be married. Then I want a house. Then I want so yeah, it is that. And but I'd say that in terms of what type of decision you have to make, even before you get to
Mhm,
that aspect of things,
mhm,
I would say that you recognizing that it does start with romance, but the romance wears off.
mhm.
And so you have to be prepared when you're dating someone. You're not thinking about, oh, I'm going to not feel this intense passion that I feel right now. You're thinking to yourself, well, I'm going to feel this forever, and that's how it's going to feel with the one. And then you realize that that's not how it goes. You feel that with the one you work on it with.
Right,
And that's where I would say the practicality comes in, because it does require a high level of practicality in your decision, and clarity on what you want for your life, and how together with this person you can accomplish that. So I know that, like I said, our relationship, we started off hot and heavy, it was good, it's great, love him, love him. And then after a while that got stale. And for quite a few years we did struggle with that. We did struggle with romance, especially because you're
yeah,
running a
I
business and you're doing all of that. And so it does take work, but it's important when you're in that initial phase and you're looking at the person and you're making the bet, because every relationship is a gamble. You're
right,
making the bet. It's important that you're making an informed bet
right,
on, hey, can I work through those low periods, through those challenges? Is this someone that I actually want to work through those with? Or do I just kind of want to go, or will I just want to go and chase the same high? And is this person going to look at me and say, hey, everything won't always be great, but I'm willing to work through low periods with you. I won't just go and chase that next high, because it's very easy to get
right.
into a cycle of everything is great. I feel the intense romance, and then boom, I don't feel it. I'm gonna go and chase the next romance.
And one of those low periods for
Mhm.
us was where we felt that we were roommates, like we felt like we were
Yeah,
roommates,
yeah, we did.
and
Well,
so
you
we
said that, yeah. You
well,
were you were
yeah,
straight up, but we gonna get to talking straight up. But you did say that you felt like we're roommates, and that we struggled with the romance part of it, and we struggled with that because when you're going through that period, it does take work, especially when you're younger, figuring out like, how do I keep that romance all the time? And that is something that you actually have to work on, and that it does fade, and
yeah,
you just keep
and to
pouring
be
into it.
honest, I am still working on it, because
You are.
a lot of that was on me early on, where I just wanted to work, to be honest.
Mhm.
And I remember, I'm gonna say this. I remember when
Yeah, be
you asked
careful.
the question, and I told you, right? I told you, yeah, we were having a discussion about marriage, and I told you that it was not a priority for
You
me
did.
right now.
That hurt me.
And you're right, no, it was like a bomb. It was like a bomb
Yeah,
fell on our apartment, and
yeah.
you disappeared for the day, right?
I did. I took a long walk on Rendezvous Bay Beach, and I pondered my life.
Yes, you did. You did. But for you guys out there, I didn't say that with any malice. I didn't My intentions were good. I should have said, "Hey, I don't have the money for that right now. I
Mhm.
want to get my finances right before we
Right.
start talking about that." So, Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
Communication was a big part too, because when I told you that I felt like we were roommates, I felt that for a while, but I didn't say that until things got really bad. So
yeah.
that was
Yeah.
on me.
Yeah, and I think that that is it's important to be realistic. We can say that transparently and not shamefully now, because it is important to be transparent about the fact that relationships have cycles,
Right.
and
Right.
it's to know that you are in that cycle. This year makes 10 years for us, and a few years of marriage. We're not gonna say a few years of marriage, but relationships have cycles, and you it's about like doing the work in those low cycles to get you
Right.
back up to the high.
Right.
So to answer the question, is marriage a practical decision or is it a loving romance? My suggestion, my response is that it's both.
Yeah.
You should be into the person, but it has to also be a practical decision in a lot of different ways, because there's a lot that goes into relationships and partnerships that require some level of practicality. We'll
Right.
talk about that in the next section.
And same for me. My response would be it's a little of both, but if I
Mhm,
had to assign like a percentage or ratio to it, I'd
mhm.
say 60 business and then the 40 romance.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Cool. I'm with that. I'm with that. That's good for me.
Yeah.
So, my next the next question that I'm seeing here is, what makes a good life and business partner? And I want to preempt this question with a comment that was
Mhm.
made by a lady online, and it went viral. And her name is Ebony Williams, and she says
Yeah.
some what are considered somewhat controversial things. And some of it is related, a lot of it is related to women and men and their interactions. And so she was making the comment that as females, as Black women in particular, we very much focus on getting our education and getting the great job and getting all of that together. And she was saying, hey, while you're getting all of those degrees, your MBA and your BBA and all this, go like while you're in school doing that, like ensure that you're working on that on that other degree, like on that ring, like ensure that you are finding your life partner to do life with so that you can enjoy the fruits of it. Now, she didn't say it in that way, but
Mhm.
that was the gist of what she was saying, that anyone who is being impartial and unbiased could take away from the comment. But everyone, when a lot of people went nuts, they were like, oh, she's saying that we can't do life without a partner, et cetera, et cetera. And so my question is, I think that maybe her comment could have been better received if there was a deeper conversation around, well, what makes a good life and business partner? Like why, like what makes a good partner? And you and I had a discussion around this. So
Mhm.
what makes a good partner?
Well, at the top of the list for me is alignment, right?
Hmm.
And direction.
Hmm.
So it's figuring out where we want to go, where we're going.
Hmm.
That is extremely important, because then we just kicking shit. We're not we're
Yeah.
not we're not serious about life.
And I would say that a marriage or a partnership is really two individuals coming together as one. That's
Mhm.
what it is. It's two
Right.
people we are individual in every single way, but we are coming together and we're committing to being one, to being
Right.
partners, to
And
doing
and
life together.
and
Hence
you're
the term
clear
life
on
partner.
what you want, and I'm
Right.
clear on what I want, and
Right.
together what we bring to the table, it just makes sense for both of us, the
Right.
direction we're heading in.
Right. And so that, I think that is the interesting part when you say what makes a good life partner. And many people are abusing this term nowadays, but a good life partner for us starts with that alignment of direction, and with you knowing as an individual what is the life that you want for yourself,
Right.
and what is the standard of life that you want to live. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about, how do you want to be loved, how do you want to be treated, where do
Mhm.
you want to go, how, like where do you want to live, like all of these different things come together. And knowing that deeply, and being, I don't want to use the term unwavering, but being very committed to the direction that you have for your life and
Being
finding a
intentional with it,
partner.
right?
Was that?
Being intentional with it.
Yeah, being intentional about it. And I say that because the same lady, Miss Williams, she made a comment. So she's super controversial. And I was kind of taken aback by the response, if I'm honest. So she made a comment, and she's an attorney and she's done extremely well for herself. And she said she would never, she was talking to Ian Van Sant, and she said she would never date a bus driver, right? And everyone was going nuts. And oh, how could she say such a thing? And basically making it that she's, shaming bus drivers for their employment. Absolutely not. Being a bus driver is an honorable job. Being a janitor is an honorable job. Being a receptionist, whatever it is you do, a CEO, uh, all of these are honorable positions. It doesn't mean that I want to be with you. And
Right.
so when she said that, I could completely relate based on the direction of my life and what it is I want from my life. No, I don't want to date a bus driver. I'm not going to be with a bus driver. I also would not be with an NBA player. I'm not interested in athletes. So like it's not about financials for me. And I think people get lost in the financials, even though that is an important aspect of it. But it's about understanding, hey, this is what I want for my life. And do I see this individual based on, they didn't say, would you date a temporary bus driver? You're saying someone who has made bus driving their career.
Right.
No,
Right.
I'm not doing it. And that's my
Like I told you, I couldn't do a 9 to 5. Someone who worked a 9 to 5.
Well, that's what you said. Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, and I don't think someone who worked a 9 to 5 could deal with you either, because
No. Yeah.
you there would be no time, right?
Mm.
You work around the clock, and then you take a little pocket of time for dinner, and then you're back at it. But I do believe that setting very clear expectations about what it is you want for your life, and having that conversation with someone else about what it is they want for their life, and being in alignment is very key.
Right.
Because if we can be transparent, when I first met you, I was like, hey, like I drove you somewhere, right?
Yeah. Very
I
much so.
drove you down in the cove, and
Yeah.
I drove you to Modena Villa, which is a villa I've always admired. And I told you, like one day I want to buy this house, or a house something like this.
I did
And
not
and I
expect
s-
that. Driving
was
down a dark road, I did not expect that.
you did not expect that. I don't know what you expected down that road, but but I wanted to be transparent with you that I didn't say, hey, this is what I want and I want you to buy it for me. That's what I said. I'm just
Right.
saying, this is the life that I want. This is the life that I am working towards. And if you're cool working towards that together, then let's do it. I
Right.
don't see anything wrong with that. And I don't see anything wrong with someone doing the opposite of that either.
And what's important there, like, okay, so I recently told you that when you did that, I was like a duck in water, cool and calm above the surface, but paddling like hell under the water.
Mhm,
And I say that because I could have easily gotten like nervous and just was like, all right, maybe you're a bit too much for me, and then I wouldn't
mhm.
be here.
Right,
But
right.
I think because I didn't say anything and I agreed and I said okay, and I didn't think about it
Mhm,
as deeply to say, hey, okay, maybe she is not enough for me. Like I think young men, they may have a shot at something great in the beginning, but
mhm,
they don't have the foresight to say, hey, all right, this could be really good for me. And
mhm.
then they end up self sabotaging themselves
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
long run.
that's facts. That's facts. So the first is alignment of direction. The second is commitment in purpose and values.
Yep.
And and we speak about you. We talk. How weird is it? I feel like our parents were in sync. How weird is it that,
Shout out to Charlene and
yeah,
Donna and
like everything, like the books you had in your house, I had
yeah,
in my house.
Enid Blyton, the Book of Virtues. Yeah, favorite
All
thing
of
to
those.
read.
And it was so strange. Commitment and values and purpose is the same, but I always, I'll give this example. I once dated a guy, and I remember like dealing with the most nonsense with him. I mean, just you deal with nonsense with men, but I just mean nonsense, just things that you would just expect decent people not to do or say or think. And
Right.
I remember telling my friends like, why is he this way? And then I realized it's just like our values aren't aligned. Like we weren't raised with the same values. We were not raised in the same type of structure that even though he came from a two-parent household and my parents were split up, it's still like the values, what values are instilled in you. And people don't really, not people, but sometimes we don't really look at that. I'm not even gonna say people because I didn't. Sometimes we don't really look at that and say, hey, like, are we aligned?
No, and most times, well, I'll speak for myself.
Speak for
I
yourself.
didn't do this. I mean, I was value first, right? That was my approach. But as a guy, you can get caught up with some of the superficial metrics, like I like butts.
Okay.
So the hair, the skin, the complexion, the physical appearance, like you got to be careful with that, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, we get, that's just that's just real. We get caught up with everything, especially when you're younger.
yeah,
And that is natural, I would say, excuse me, as a teenager, especially if no one is having these conversations with you. You're looking at who's the cutest boy, who's the sexiest girl, and that's who you want.
yeah.
And you're not sitting there and saying, well, are they honest? Like, are they selfish? Like, what was the environment in their home? And how is that? Like, nobody is thinking about that. How is that showing up? How does that show up in their lives? But that is like, that's foundational.
And you know what? I really got lucky because you're older than me.
Mhm,
I wasn't thinking about those things. I was like, to be honest, like values and stuff. You
mhm.
just looking at who looks good. Well, I can't say that. I did have a list of women that I could potentially pursue, who I
I
thought
love that
had,
for you.
yeah.
I absolutely love that for you. Sucks to be them.
Yeah.
But but but
Mm,
no, I would definitely say that like commitment and values and purpose and being aligned in that way is critical. And I knew you, like, even though I didn't know you before we got together, I knew of you, and I knew that you came from a great household. You have two sets of parents, and you have you have incredible
and I was
sisters
God
and a
fearing that
family that,
that worked really well in this relationship.
yeah, we spoke about that the other day. We spoke about the
Yeah.
fact that you had both of your mothers loved you immensely,
Hmm.
but one mother was very strong as a disciplinarian, which to this day it has benefited our lives
Love you, mommy.
in every single way. And then your other mother, your biological mother, she was more of a, how would you
Well,
describe it?
a bit laid back. She was more
Yeah,
laid back.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So away from the superficial metrics. And the
Yeah.
third thing on the list in terms of what makes a great partner, our list, is you brought this one up, Gino.
Yeah.
Openness, a safe space to share hard conversations.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Do you want me popping? Let's go.
So I'm a very secretive person. Like I've been called a wall because you can tell me something and by the next week I have forgotten it, right? So a wall of secrets.
You've forgotten it or you've chosen to not share it.
R- No, I mean sometimes I forget, to be
Okay.
honest. Sometimes I forget that
Mm,
the person has even told me something
okay.
that I'm not supposed to share,
Mhm.
which is a good thing.
Right.
But I think it depends on the individual
Mhm.
because in these safe spaces, you have safe spaces, but
Mhm.
some of the conversations you may not necessarily be ready for.
Right.
You had a lot of tough conversations with me,
Yeah.
like extremely hard conversations. And as
Yeah.
a man, you got to just put your ego aside and say, all right, what is she trying to say? And I have been telling and usually it starts with me telling myself a story. Oh, she's just this, she's just that, she's just
Mhm.
but when I've had time to sit back and think about it, I realize that you do care about me, and it's not coming from a malicious, you know.
No.
But I think
Well, I'll say this. This we spoke about this. When you're starting a relationship, most of us, all of us, we work to show the most manicured version of ourselves, the most perfect version of ourselves that is without flaw, without blemish, that is not creating issues. And so even when you feel something in that moment, because I felt that early on myself, there were points in time even before I said something that I felt something and I wanted to state it. I wanted to share
You still do
something
that
that was
sometimes
of
with someone.
concern to me. What'd you say?
You still do that. You still
Yeah, I still sometimes, because I want to do it right. Like no woman wants to just be a nag, right? And so you're okay. So I dislike you. so so
Oi.
it's like you want to you don't want to create an environment where your partner thinks that you're disgusting, basically.
Right.
And so I think this openness that we're talking about, this safe space to share, is so important to successful relationships, because if it is that you're just holding everything in, and I know what that feels like, to be holding it all in, to feel what you're feeling but not share it because you don't want to create an issue. But when you're holding that in, it creates bigger issues,
Yep.
because
Yep.
now I'm holding one thing in, but you open the door wrong, and I'm looking at you like this mother. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Pause. 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 And I would say, in the female male dynamic,
Mm,
especially for men, if there isn't that safe space at
mhm,
home, for me, I can speak for myself.
mhm,
When I felt like I couldn't confide in you,
mhm.
I did other things.
Yeah, yeah. You confided in friends.
Yeah, other
Yeah,
females essentially,
yeah, and
and that isn't
and
healthy.
that wasn't gonna work at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's and so I think that that is important, to always create a safe space to say, hey, like if I don't feel comfortable in, like, create a safe space to where you can have hard conversations,
Right.
because the minute we started having those conversations all those years ago, it the relationship didn't become easier, because those hard conversations are by their very nature not easy,
Yeah.
but it it becomes stronger. And
And I think that when we hear women and men, you
Mhm.
think you just know that, oh, the men, you gotta be tough and strong. You
Yeah,
can't express emotion or
yeah,
whatever. And that's what a female does.
mhm,
And besides security and everything else you guys need, men, as tough as much as we may put on, we still need that as well. We need that
yeah.
emotional security, someone that we can talk to, especially if it's our life partner, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You need that, and we spoke about that. A safe space to share, and a place where you can have the hard conversations that build you and that create that foundation for long-term success
Right.
in your relationship.
And the benefits of not like putting on earlier on in a relationship is that you get through the mud, right? The
Yeah.
choppy seas. We did a lot of that. Like a lot of our tough conversations took place earlier on in our
Earlier.
relationship.
Yeah.
And granted, arguments are usually around business matters
Yeah.
nowadays,
Yeah.
right? I always refer to our relationship as smooth sailing, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it helped.
Yeah. And so the final thing on the list we spoke about is accountability, because when you do have those hard conversations, when you are when you're confronted with some aspect of the way you
Yeah.
operate that your partner does not is not comfortable with or would like you to look at, the other part of that equation is now fixing it and working on it,
Yeah.
and not being obsessed with protecting your ego and protecting who it is you are trying to present to be, and being comfortable being like, you know what, I dropped the ball on that, and
Right.
that was not a thing, and I'm gonna fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not always easy.
It is not, especially for me. Well, it wasn't easy for me.
No, it was not.
Even if we were playing like a pickup game of basketball,
Mhm.
it was always your fault, right?
It was. It was. We spoke about that. We spoke
Yeah.
about that. I'm not in that.
And I think that's one of like the value that I have worked on the most, accountability,
Yeah.
to the point where I want to apologize first, even if it's not my fault. It's yeah, but yeah, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I was not accountable at all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Or at least my ego would. Yeah.
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 And what I think you did often was you would not be accountable in a moment. We spoke about that. You're always going to come back and say sorry. That's how you are. And then you're going to fix it. But you would be not accountable in a moment. And then we'd have to go through this whole period where, you're moping around because you
Downtime.
feel
Yeah.
guilty, but you're not going to say it because, you missed a big man. And then you come after the fact and now you're sorry. My thing is just do that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like don't do all this extra shit.
Yeah.
Just,
And we do that a lot now. So
yeah,
this is
just do
good.
that at the jump.
Yeah.
Okay. So we spoke about this, the fact that in our culture, everybody, and I let me say this. I'm speaking for all females. Females get tired of men. You go on a date. What are your goals? My goal is to build generational wealth. Okay, buddy. So we hear a lot of conversation around
You heard
building.
that one time, sweetheart.
I did not hear it not from you. I'm not talking about from you. I hear females talking about men
I,
saying this all the time.
yeah.
So we hear a lot of conversation on the internet and off the internet about building generational wealth and creating opportunities for our family down the road, right? But the question really is, are we prepared as children, and are we preparing our children for partnerships that support the development of that generational wealth?
Mhm.
And this question comes into play because what we were discussing was that in missing or avoiding those important conversations
Mhm.
around what you should be looking for in a partner, you're actually leaving room for all of the work that you've done to create that generational wealth. You're leaving room for all of that to become undone, all of your investments in your children to become undone, because you can create generational wealth for your children. But if they marry into a partnership with someone who has not healed their generational trauma, all that you've done will become undone. So this idea of partnership in the pursuit of happiness, it's not just a love conversation or a romance conversation, but it's also an economic conversation because of what it means for our communities. So
Right.
I'd like us to just talk very transparently about some of the toxic ideals that men and women, you can speak for men and women,
Mhm.
have when it comes to relationships or the opposite sex, and why they are problematic. And so we'll just, yeah, let's just talk about that for a little bit.
You sure you want to get into this?
Yeah, I want you to speak for your species.
Right. So one of the craziest things I've heard was that we're the prize, right? So men are the prize,
Hmm.
and
Ain't the
not
first time I
women,
heard that.
and that we shouldn't chase,
That men shouldn't chase.
that men should not chase.
I've heard
Right.
men say that they like when a woman chases. Yeah, and I don't see anything wrong necessarily with a woman chasing, but yeah.
No,
Well, I,
but
I
you
see
are
an issue
always
with a woman
chasing.
chasing, pursuing a man, but I don't see anything wrong with a woman like
No,
demonstrating that.
it's give and take,
Right,
but the person that said it, it was as if I ain't gotta try hard, right? I ain't gotta
right.
do anything.
Yeah. So like some toxic stuff.
Yes,
So you think that that is a toxic idea that men have?
correct. That is my opinion.
So I want to challenge that just a little bit, and
Okay.
I'm going to challenge this, and I'm coming back to support my women in a few, but just hear me out. Just hear me out.
Oh,
I was shown a site. I'm gonna drop the link in the description of this thing, right? But I was shown a site, and it's called the Female Delusion Calculator. So you already
of
know,
course.
Female Delusion Calculator. And so you're saying that it's a toxic idea for men to believe that they are the prize.
Yes.
My challenge to you is, if you go on this site,
Mm-hmm.
female delusion calculator, I will put in what I know most women my age are looking for. Okay. Or I'll put women, let's say 25 to 35. I'm putting it in right now. 25 to 35. Help me out. So let's say you want a black man.
Mm-hmm.
How tall he gotta
Over
be?
over 6 feet.
Yeah. Women want a 6 foot man. Income.
Oh, 6 figures at least.
Okay, 6 figures at least. That's a thing up here. So I'm gonna just put $100,000 flat.
All right.
Good. 100,000 flat. You don't even gotta be over that. Good. And that's it. And exclude obese. Doesn't matter. It doesn't
No,
matter.
fit.
Okay. All right. So this is what I'm not saying this is my list. I'm just saying 9 out of 10 women I talk to, this is
Mhm.
what they want.
Right.
So you're saying women don't need to chase because, you know, men should be chasing them. The likelihood, running the numbers now, the probability of finding a man in the millions upon millions of men in the United States that fit that profile, educated, black, at least 6 feet, earning $100,000 per year, between 25 and 35. The odds of that, 0.096%. Not even 1%
100%.
of men, of black men fit that profile. So my question to you again, is it a toxic idea that men that fit a certain category, that certain men do, is it wrong to believe that certain men can justifiably see themselves as the prize?
Right. So, sweetheart, I know I'm like a shiny Pokemon, right? I'm rare,
Okay.
but
Ooh, you
it
talking up
doesn't
yourself, you
excuse
here.
my responsibilities as a man to provide and protect, essentially.
Mhm.
So, we talk about the roles of a man and the role of a man and a woman all the time. I say my role is to provide and to protect, and yours is to, yeah, you know.
Go ahead.
But it is our responsibility. It is my responsibility to nurture the actual prize, which is you. I have to nurture you so that you can pour back into me so that I can provide and protect.
Mm. So you're saying that regardless of if a man fits this top tier status, wherever he land on the totem
You
pole,
you tell me, name one man that has achieved success, any level, extreme level of success on his own without a woman.
Elon Musk got a woman. I think he got like a whole gang of chicks.
Yeah, he got a bevy. He got a bevy of women and kids.
So, but I get what you're saying.
But
I
the
get what you're
support
saying.
of the woman is still there.
Right. Some woman is still there supporting on the back end of
Correct.
creating an environment, nurturing.
Correct.
I understand. I get that. I get that. And so you're saying that that is a toxic idea. Okay. For me, I would say that a toxic
Or
belief.
Tahira, before you continue, like you could think otherwise and you just be alone because I'm certain that no woman would want that for sure.
Right. Well, there are women who tolerate that, but it's
Yeah,
certainly not.
tolerate but
Yeah.
don't want, right?
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah. It's pretty hard to be with a man that thinks he's the prize. Yeah. That's not
Right.
definitely not a thing. It's a sucky life. But I
And
think
and
for,
so okay, all right.
mhm.
You put me on blast here. What are some crazy things you've heard as a woman? Like give us your perspective.
In terms of toxic, well, I'm not speaking from hearing anybody else say it. I'm speaking from my own experience. This is a
Okay.
toxic belief I had.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it for myself. I think that one of the toxic beliefs we have as women is the belief that we can change a man, is the belief that we can transform a man from whoever he is into some whimsical
So
creature.
it's impossible.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that when you're going into situations, as I have in the past, with this idea that, yeah, he's got some issues, but we can work through that. And, you're trying to find every reason why it's all fixable and workable. That
But didn't you, like, I wouldn't say try to change me, but tactfully say certain things and did certain things?
so let me qualify my comment. Since you come out all guns blazing in episode 2. let me clarify let me
Yeah,
clarify.
because a friend recently said, "Oh, you molded him." Like, I mean, you.
So let's be real. When I met you, you were 21 years old. You were making 22.
How old were you?
I had just made 25. So we're 3 years apart.
Okay.
That's it. That's it. We're 3 years apart. I will say that this when I talk about wanting to change a man
Mhm.
and it being a toxic idea to change a man, I'm not talking about pouring into your partner.
Okay.
It is every woman's responsibility to pour into her relationship, her marriage, to create an environment where her partner can thrive and grow and succeed and all of that. What I'm talking about is people who fundamentally do not have the basics to evolve into much more, and thinking that you can just transform this person. And I'll use an analogy like building a house. So you have a house that has bricks, and maybe some of the bricks are cracked, but you can fix that, and that can be painted and what's not, versus a house that is filled with wood that is dry rot and got a whole bunch of mold and got all kinds of shit that just it's dilapidated. There's nothing you can do with that. And I think that, speaking from experience, I have tried to pour into people who fundamentally, I could not change them because
Right, right. But define the line, because pouring could be, for example, with us, you
okay.
said you were pouring, but you wanted a lot of things to change.
Yeah, well, yes, I wanted things to change, but I was creating an environment. I couldn't change it for you. You had to make certain adjustments to become the man that you are today, from the scrawny 21-year-old that approached me,
Watch
right?
it.
So you so so you had to do that yourself. That's not work that I could do for you. All I could do was create an environment that said you can do this, and to champion you and to love you and to pour into you. And so I'm saying, as women, most of us, that's our nature, that is our default. We want to support and
Oh, wait,
nurture.
wait, hold on, hold on. Do you think pouring alone changes a man?
What?
Like, okay, let's just say I just continue to pour and pour and pour and pour.
Mhm.
Like, how do you measure that? Like,
Well,
what if
no.
nothing
So
changes?
that
Like,
is my point. In that's my point. Pouring alone cannot change a man, because if he fundamentally, and let's pouring alone cannot help a man to make the change he needs to make to be the man that you need. Because you can pour and pour and pour, but if he doesn't want it in and of himself, and if he doesn't have the ambition to go for it, then what? Like, is all for naught.
right. So it's essentially it's on us as well. And I think that's what we were talking about earlier on with us coming together as individuals and working on ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's you, it's as an individual, knowing that, hey, this person has, because when I met you, you were not just like kicking the shit around the place. Like, you told me what it is you wanted to do. Back then you wanted to be a
Mhm.
Navy SEAL, and you weren't just saying that. All of your actions lined up with who it is you were telling me you wanted to be. You were disciplined. I'd never met a man as disciplined as you up to that
Mhm.
point. You were getting up, you were training, you were eating healthy, you were like on time like clockwork, you were working multiple jobs, you were disciplined. And
Mhm.
so if someone is telling me they want to be a Navy SEAL, and I'm seeing all of their actions align with that, then yeah, that is a relationship that I can pour into. That is someone that we can work together, as opposed to someone telling me they want to be a Navy SEAL, but they out drinking every night at the bar, or they're
Right.
partying, or they're eating plates on plates of Chinese food. And me thinking in my mind, oh, I just gotta, support him and be down for him. And then he gonna change what he needs to change to become a Navy SEAL. That's
All
not
right.
the way it works out.
So
But that's how we think about it
so
sometimes.
peep this.
Keep what?
Peep this.
Peep this. Okay.
Right. So all right. In a relationship, let's say we have another couple in this exact same situation,
Okay.
right? Like, what was like your biggest challenge with me as it relates to like you were pouring, but a change that you wanted to see in me immediately and fast? Like, just you didn't have any patience with it. Like, what's something?
Do you have an answer in your head? I'm trying to think.
Yes, I think I do, but
You
I
think
want to
you
hear.
do? I'm trying to think. I feel like I've been
Think
very
think back
patient.
to think back to younger Gino. What was something that
I feel
just
like I waited for my prize.
what? All right. Okay.
Ah,
Okay. Okay.
what is something? I mean, something that I wanted you to change in me. Like, maybe we spoke about it on the first one. Like, I felt like you were spending a lot of time, like, not being as focused. Once we made the shift and we were building the business, maybe you were spending a lot of time just not being as focused in like not
Right.
applying the level of
Okay.
discipline
So
required.
for
Mhm.
another female in this situation, you tell them that you need to get your man to focus.
Yes, and but the thing is, you can't make a man focus. He got to want that for himself. Because the truth
But
is, I could tell you whatever I want to tell you, and you know this. It doesn't matter what I say. If you don't want to do it, you're not doing it. If you
right, but I also believe that you're very good with words, and like when
okay.
you told me and you said, "Why would you want to go and fight in someone else's war?"
Oh,
And I was
right,
so
right.
upset.
Well, yeah,
And
that was big for me. Yeah.
so I think it's like, I mean, you can't change a man, but if they're
Right.
logical
When
enough,
you told
they'll think
me,
about it.
you told me, obviously you were into technology, but you also wanted to go into the Navy SEALs. And I love the discipline, but I was like, here I am falling in love with this man, and now he's about to be out in what, Iraq? I play enough Call of Duty. I know what goes on out there. Like, I'm not, no, like I, no. And I was very direct with you about that. I was very
Okay,
direct
so
with you about that.
Biz, I'm still not hearing it. Give the ladies a technique that they can use, because we do know that you can't change a person. They have to want to do
They
it
have to want
within
to change, but I
themselves.
think
But I think you
you
did
can
a
ask
very
questions.
good job in terms of like leading me down the right direction.
Yeah, I think I asked questions that sometimes, especially because men are very passionate creatures. You guys, when a man is passionate and he's committed to whatever path he's on, it's you can't just go and say this is a stupid thing. Like
Yeah.
that's not going to work, right? But asking questions that get him thinking. Yeah, so asking
Yeah.
questions,
There we
but
go.
again, it has to be a man that like because you're wasting your time when you're doing that with some people.
Yeah.
And knowing and so my big thing is when I say it's a toxic trait we have, believing we can change a man, I would say that understanding you cannot change anybody. You cannot change a man or a woman. They have to
Right.
want something for themselves. You can only provide practical insight, practical suggestions, and unbiased commentary, and that person has to want that for themselves. But it's important to look before you even expend your breath doing that. It's important to look at the individual and ask yourself it, is it worth it with this person? Like, is he saying he wants to be in the Navy SEALs, but he's out drinking and he's partying, doing all this, and he's not a man of his word. He's not
Not
committed. So
this.
I'm not
Right.
even wasting time with him. So that is what I would say we have to do as women a better job of, and I had to do a better job of aligning words with actions. And
Right.
or observing words and actions, and when they did not align, when they consistently did not align, when a man demonstrated a history of not addressing his problems, when a man demonstrated a history of not being accountable, like, even because he may be talking about some other shit with you that happened with somebody else, but there's a pattern, and eventually that's going to be your lived experience. So
Right.
yeah, I think that as women, we have to look out for that, because we hear things and we think, oh, I'm gonna be the difference. No, you're not. Like, he gonna do the same shit, and you gonna just be mad because you should have known better.
Right. So, all right, ladies, you heard that. Look out for men whose actions don't align, no, whose words don't align with their actions.
Yeah,
Right. For
yeah.
sure.
Save yourself the time and energy. All right. All right. So we are moving swiftly into a very interesting aspect of this conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're talking about standards and the fact that in a lot of relationships, in partnerships, there are expectations. You
Mhm.
cannot be disappointed if you do not have an expectation. And so, whether you are, if your expectation is met, you're going to be happy. If your expectation is
Mhm.
unmet, you're going to be disappointed.
Right.
And so, recently, there has been a lot of dialogue and conversation and controversy around expectations in relationships, in marriage. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. What
Okay.
are good standards and what are toxic standards or expectations in a relationship? What are good standards?
Well, I'll give you my biggest one, like up
Okay.
front. Now, I need someone to help me limit the amount of decisions that I have to make in a given day.
Okay.
That is what I rely on you heavily for.
Mhm.
So, for example, in my personal life, don't laugh, but I love that you take out my clothes from me.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I don't have to
And if
do.
your boxer's on the bed, you're like, "Babes, my boxer."
Yeah, if you miss anything, if my belt isn't there, if you're
Yeah.
missing a sock, if it's not the right sock, I'm complaining. And then I would say, like in business, I love like when you break down like the project briefs for me, and anything that
Mhm.
doesn't involve me having to think just because I have to do so much of that already.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll say this, I would say that a good standard is a standard that is based on expectations that both partners can mutually agree on,
Right.
and that both partners can play roles that complement their strengths. And these look different for every couple, right? They're
Hmm.
different for every couple. You've just stated that it's important to you that your briefs and socks and your pants and your shoes,
Why do you have to say like that, sweetheart?
everything is laid out for you. And
But that's because you enjoy that, and
exactly, but I do enjoy that. I enjoy creating an environment where you are free to operate without thinking too much, because a standard that I have set for our relationship is that I don't ever expect to be in the same position at the end of every year. I expect to be leveling up every single year, and I expect your I'm putting in the work on my end, but I also expect your actions
right.
and your outputs and your skill sets and our business
Mhm.
to be growing every single year. So I'm going to do whatever I got to do to create an
The
environment
pressure. You see the pressure,
that
guys?
supports you in your role in helping us accomplish that. But that's the
Okay.
standard that we've set. And I say this, I'm going to say this transparently. I'm going to say this, and it's going to be embarrassing for me to say it, but I'm going to just say it because it's healthy to the conversation. So yesterday you made a comment and said you just can't stand bellies.
You should have
Right?
messaged me.
That's what you said. You said that if it's
Ah,
one
God.
thing you want me to work on, it's my belly. No, if anybody see me standing up, I do not have a huge belly. I don't. You know that, you know. But you made that comment. I'm stating this because we're talking about standards. And I'm talking about how sometimes there are people, like if a dude go online or right now and say that, how he body shaming or whatever, whatever. For me, it's look. if you tell me as my husband, that's just something that I need you to work on. I need you to, I'm not saying that you got a big belly, but I'm saying that I need you to have a six pack. I
No.
need you to I need you to tighten up. And so if you can tell me that and I heard you say that, I honestly was not offended. I was like, wow, like the fact that he articulated this like this must mean a lot to him. And so, because of that, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to work on this because I know that if I tell you something, I tell you, I don't expect you to be running around here 2 weeks without having that haircut. Like I need, I need you looking crisp and looking like I want to like what I look at. And when
Right.
you got a little pudge on your belly, I come and I tease you. Say, hey, I'm not with no young boy for no
Woo!
belly. Like you gotta
Right.
you gotta bring that six pack in.
Right. But it's important that whoever your significant other, they can take it and they are willing, they want to work on it.
That,
That's
and
extremely important.
that's it. And again, I think that I could receive that conversation in that way because, like, y- I feel like if there's something I tell you that I would
Well,
like you
babe,
to
you've
work on,
gotten better at receiving those
I
conversations.
have
Yeah,
because
a lot better.
I mean,
'Cause I
yeah,
do remember the first time I mentioned that, and it did not go well at all.
no, no, but when you said that this time, I'm not gonna lie. I sat there in the car. I was like, wow, like Gino said that very directly. Like he wasn't mad on nothing. He wasn't like shading. I know you always go on with you don't want me eating unhealthy and all this. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I heard you say that, and I was like, is his right because we're in partnership. And if this is a standard that he has set for the partnership, I have standards I have set. We have to meet them. I think where standards get toxic is when one partner has a standard for their
mhm,
significant other, but they don't want to hold the standards that their significant other has for them. And so
right.
now it's a situation where, oh, well, I'm being held to this standard and there are these expectations set of me, but you just do whatever you want. Like,
And as it relates to setting standards, for sure,
mhm,
I well, in our relationship,
mhm.
I believe that I have to lead. Like, so for example, if I want you to look a certain way, I have to be leading the charge.
The pastor said that. Didn't he say that? What did he say? Because you were
Oh,
repeating it.
that that's where I got it from. Yes, I you were listening to something. I was
I
there
was
the other
listening to
day.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
What did he say? He said,
right, right. He was saying that you just can't tell your wife she's too fat, that she needs to
I am
lose
not
weight.
fat, by the way,
You
but
I,
please
I
carry
didn't
on.
I didn't say that, wife. I'm just
Go ahead.
saying that I, as a man, I was like, I need to change my approach. I need to lead the charge. And so that's why I'm the one. I started taking over a lot of like the dinner meals. I do breakfast, and then we work out a lot, put together the plan and stuff,
You did.
because I have to live with you for the rest of
You
my
do.
life.
And so that's my thing. When people get crazy about these standards, oh, how could he expect her to do that? How could she expect him? What you talking about? We are supposed to be together forever. Like you
Ah,
I you better get them arms up, get that six pack. You crazy. Like and I get it. And when you say, hey, get that belly down, I'm like, okay, I got you. I understand. You deserve that because you are my partner and we're in it together forever. And forever is not like like I think that when we're younger, we make decisions in relationships for next summer. I distinctly remember thinking about that.
true,
We're
true.
thinking about, we could have this boyfriend for the summer. We're going to go here. Like, this is forever. We got to be with each other forever. We get to be with each other forever. And so let's create standards and expectations around our relationship that are going to support us into the future. So the last section, Gino, partnership in the pursuit of happiness, just to
Mhm.
kind of bring it all together. Why is being in sync so important? Why would you say being in sync is so important to keeping a relationship on track? Why is being in synergy so important to keeping a relationship on track?
Because it helps us to focus. Like, there are no distractions.
Mhm.
We're on the same wavelength. We need that unity, because like whenever like if we're not on the same wavelength, especially like for example, if we have an argument or something,
Mhm.
we're not there and we can't do our work. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I people, as we've all got to, we cannot discount as a people the responsibility for choosing partners that keep us in sync with our
right,
long-term goals and who hold us accountable for the promises we make to them and the promises we make to ourselves. And we also cannot discount the toxic nature of partners who do the opposite,
right,
partners who distract. And I can say, like you said, our relationship, we've had some kinks, but for the most part, it has been smooth sailing. But in those moments, that day you chose, and it wasn't at home, you told me that in my mother's yard is where you
what?
told me that. I'll never forget. You told me marriage was not a priority for you. That is where you said it, in my mother's yard. I'll never
It
forget.
wasn't in the kitchen. It wasn't in the kitchen.
No, it was in my mother's yard. I remember because then I walked to the beach. I walked to the beach and I walked up the beach and I just walked and walked until the sun set. That's where it was. But I'm saying that when you have even that little distraction, that was a moment in time.
Hmm.
Like when I think about how I just could not be my best self and bring my
Right.
best self to my work that day, it's you want a partner that when you're picking a partner, when you're choosing a partner, you want a partner that's going to pour into you. You want a partner that's going to celebrate you. You want a partner that when you come with an idea, they're not going to just kind of laugh that off or make it seem like, that's too big for you. You want someone that is going to celebrate you to the max and push you to whatever the next level looks like for you because they believe you are capable of that. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'd like to add to that, like on a topic of just being in sync.
Mhm.
It's not just about, I mean, granted, the relationship is great, being in sync there in alignment with your goals and
Mhm.
what you want to work on, what I have to work on. But I think a large part of our relationship, and it might scare some people, but I don't think if we didn't have like God like in the midst of it, this would probably be a wreck
Yeah.
because a lot of times we just like we didn't know what to do, and
Mhm.
getting on our knees were like the best option at that
Yeah.
time.
And I would give you that 100%. 100%. We are who we are today, and our relationship is what it is because God is at the center of it. Even though we have not always done our best in terms of maintaining that relationship in church and what's not, I will say that anytime things get hard, you don't sit down and say, "How do I go to the street?" You don't say, "How do I call whoever?" I see you go on your hands and knees. And I remember the first time I saw that, I said, "Thank you, Jesus. Like, you have sent
Right.
me a gift." Like, I have a man that prays and a man
Yeah.
that will pray with you and hold your hand and say, like, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. Like, don't like that is so comforting. And that goes back to the values that we were
Yeah.
talking about.
And I like to add that you sync it covers a lot of things, but just be a great team player, right?
Yeah.
Just think team. Whatever it is, just think team. How does this affect my partner?
Yeah. You that is an excellent way to put it, Gino, because a lot of people are in relationships and partnerships and they are seemingly committed
Mhm.
to one purpose because when you say I do, you are committed to one purpose,
Mhm.
but their actions are not team because they're doing what they got to do for themselves. And I think that makes a partnership really hard when you're not partners, when you're not operating like partners, when you're not moving like a team, moving like a unit, where when one person falters, you make them feel like crap for it.
And I really got that like I would say later down, like later last year, like late last year, you
Mhm,
told me that we had some argument, and
mhm.
you told me that I was always your priority. And to be honest, like we're married and stuff, you're my priority, but I didn't really understand how deeply you felt about that. And
Yeah.
so then I was like, okay, I get it. You don't care about
Yeah.
anybody else. You're my priority. And I feel like a lot of us, we don't do that. Me,
It's
I'm very
work. You have
caring
to work on
and
it.
kind and stuff. And sometimes it gets the best of me, and that can be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
But you gotta realign and figure out who your loyalty is to, and what your priorities are. And in this
Yeah.
case, it's always you, right?
When you are in partnership, and for thankfully the married couples that we know and who we speak to, when you are in partnership, your priority always has to be your partner. And I told you today, I said I'm looking forward to when we have kids, and I know it's going to be a test, especially when you're a mother and your children become you're a mother, you birth a child like that, you love this thing. And
Right.
I know I have an obsessive compulsive personality, but it's like ensuring that at the end of the day, my partner, these kids just came, you just got into this world, you
Well,
are always my
you,
priority.
you know we speak about that a lot. I don't expect anything to change. I mean, obviously,
I've heard
I'll
that.
take the
I
load
have
off
heard.
you, but no.
I've heard, and you're also aware that things may adjust, but things will correct. That it will be a growing
Right,
process.
right, right.
We
But
heard you here. We're
I
like,
come first,
you
then
come
and
first
the
here,
brothers.
then,
Yeah,
then the little kids.
the
I
brothers.
got you. Yeah, yeah, and that is how it should be. I did not always believe that, but I
Mhm.
understand that now. That is a maturity thing that I have had to come to understand, and I will be truly tested. I cannot say I've been tested. I will be truly tested when we do have our own kids, and I
Correct.
hope to pass that test. But yeah, this has been a fun episode, Gino. It's been a fun episode, and I'm glad that we had it, because more healthy relationships, they don't just create more healthy homes for us as
Right,
a people,
right,
but better homes, better relationships create better economics for our families. They help us to create an environment where our children can thrive. They help us to create an environment where our families can thrive, where we learn how to deal with issues together in a way that is not toxic, but that
mhm,
that is useful and helpful and direct, and 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 generational wealth and all this other stuff that we talk about, and living your biggest dreams and living your most amazing life, those cannot be sustainably achieved without first building healthy partnerships.
correct.
Because as we said earlier, generational wealth cannot just can be, but will be wiped out. Generational wealth will be wiped out by generational trauma
Right,
if we don't train our children, and if we don't train ourselves to manage and navigate relationships in a manner that is healthy.
right. And before we go, I just want to leave a little nugget for just young men in general who
Mhm.
are trying to build something, and a partner is involved, they're not involved. I would say what has worked extremely well for me is just opening up, communicating.
Mhm.
Again, I mentioned earlier on that the safe environment isn't just for the woman; it's also for
Mhm.
us to be our best self, right? So
Yeah.
you gotta communicate, and you gotta be intentional with everything. That's dating. That's being thoughtful. That's
We're going on a
every
date now.
yes, and we're late, but yeah, I'd say what was really successful, something that we really worked on that helped us a lot would be the communication, hands
Yeah,
down, and just developing that safe space and that environment to grow for sure. All right,
absolutely.
it all
Absolutely.
starts with a conversation.
It all
Yeah,
starts with a conversation. So it is very realistic to pursue partnerships that support you in your pursuit of happiness and create amazing, just spectacular, the best version of life for you and for your family. And we're so happy and thankful that you joined us for episode 2. Episode 2 is in the books.
yeah,
and we hope to see you again for episode 3. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Until next time, I am Tahirah.
And I'm Babes. And please continue to dream in color. Please
Dream
do.
in color. Let's go. Peace.
All right. Bye.